Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're finally going to get around to talking about Crunchyroll Originals, aka WEBTOON.
I was going to say it's Webtoons, yeah.
And yeah, so we found High Guardian Spice. It does exist. We've talked about it. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about our thoughts, and we're going to talk about some of the controversy surrounding this series and possibly maybe the other Crunchyroll Originals, what our reactions are, and all of that. So before we get into it, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We're at almost 100,000 subs.
Yay! Less than 4,000. Woo!
Less than 4,000 to go, guys, until we join the six-figure club. So thanks for that. So before we talk about the announcement of High Guardian Spice and other things, I just want to roll the clock back a little bit and take you down memory lane. We are one of the only channels that have actually been talking about High Guardian Spice ever since they announced it like 2 years ago. It was announced. They made a big deal about the people working on the show, not the show itself.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of backlash.
Yeah, their whole video, their whole teaser, their whole promotion wasn't about the actual show. It was about, do we mention that it's all diversity? It was like a Kickstarter video about, you know, who was behind the show, not about the show.
Right, and that ruffled the feathers of a lot of people because at the time the show looked like a Steven Universe type Cartoon Network show.
It was like Little Witch Academia 2.0.
Right, and it still may be. We don't know what's going to happen. There was a lot of backlash. Crunchyroll, people were upset because they thought that Crunchyroll was taking the money that was supposed to go to the Japanese animators for existing series to make sure that they were paid fairly and giving it to basically a Tumblr Kickstarter type project, and they were not happy. Then not long after they announced this, they jacked the rates up on Crunchyroll.
Yeah,
up like
something had to pay for it somehow.
Yeah, and it's to pay for these originals. You know, of course, Crunchyroll is part of Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is searching the couch cushions for money at this point, and you know, but they're probably promising them, well, if you let us do these originals, you'll have more content for HBO Max.
Yeah, that's probably what they're spending it. I'm betting.
Probably it. So we actually had somebody. Now there was nothing was said on this show for a long time. Crunchyroll shut the forum down in regards to High Guardian Spice. Nobody was talking about it except us because, you know, we like to hit the beehive, I guess. And lo and behold, one day we get a tweet out of the blue from someone who actually had seen the trailer.
Yeah. Well, they actually put their tweets up on Twitter, didn't they? They were just tweeting about it on Twitter.
Yeah, but they were tagging us in the tweets.
Yeah, they were tagging. Yeah. So they weren't like, they were putting it out there publicly.
No,
it wasn't like they were private messaging us.
No, so they put a plot synopsis up on Twitter as their reaction as they're watching it. Now, the thing is, I guess they were violating an NDA because you're not supposed to talk about it at all. But we did talk about, which we didn't know, we did talk about it in a video. We said, here's what we know. The show actually does exist. There is a pilot floating around. Here's what someone...
All we did was read the tweets.
Yeah, we read the tweets, and we were contacted. So we were like, we don't know if it's legit or not. Well, lo and behold, within like 12 hours... we get contacted by Elation's legal team, so we know it's real.
Yeah, but they knew they couldn't make us take it down. They were asking us,
to take it down.
The only reason we complied was because, you know, we didn't want the person that had posted on Twitter to get in trouble.
Yeah,
that's the only reason why. And you know what? Pretty soon, I think we should just post it back up again because at that point, what difference does it make?
It's gonna be public. Yeah.
So it was taken down because we chose to take it down. It wasn't because they said we had to, because then we would be like, oh, do we now? But we took it down.
Yeah, it was our choice. Just to be clear, you know, we weren't forced to take it down.
Nope.
Frankly, I don't think they had any leg to stand on because, you know, we weren't showing anything. We never signed anything. But we did it as a favor to the person who posted
to help him not get in trouble.
The video. Now the reaction to that, his reaction or her reaction to that was that they said the show actually wasn't that bad.
No.
They said the animation was good. And it was getting an unnecessarily bad rap, but that again is, you know, this is the worst way to market these kinds of shows is when you lead with, hey, we're not going to talk about the show, we're going to talk about the diversity, and we're going to talk about what we're going to do and why you should watch it. We're going to guilt you into watching the show.
Exactly. This whole idea, and this is what Hollywood's been running with, is not that let the show speak for itself, just make a good show with good characters. They immediately out of the gate announced their show, but they didn't announce it as a good show. They announced it as it's all about diversity. And immediately you turn everybody off because they're like, oh, crap, here we go, more Hollywood BS. So people are already going to be up against it, like we saw it with She-Ra, with Star Wars, with everything. If you don't like this, they're already case putting that's because you're a homophobe, you're transphobic, you're, racist, misogynist, hater, pig, whatever.
Right,
that was what this whole thing was about, was preemptively building that, shield before they released the show.
Yeah, so that being said, we got our first very, very tiny glimpse of the animation for High Guardian Spice in the Crunchyroll sizzle reel, I guess we could call it, for Crunchyroll Originals. And I have to admit, I'm surprised. It looks like actual anime.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad.
It doesn't. The animation doesn't look bad. Now, the person who watched the show said it's basically, Steven Universe, Little Witch Academia mashup, but it doesn't look like I thought it was going to look. I honestly thought it was going to look more like a Cartoon Network show and not actual anime. In fact, that's one thing about all these originals is, they actually look like anime. I don't know what I was expecting. I was opposite. I kind of figured they'd make it look like anime, but I thought it was going to look too much like, Little Witch Academia, which is what everybody was worried about. So, I mean, look, we don't know anything about what the show's actually going to be like, but at least the animation looks like they're trying. It's a hell of a lot better than Thundercats Roar.
Oh,
Let's put it that way. It is a hell of a lot better than Thundercats Roar.
A little kid with a crayon, like a 2-year-old with a crayon, could draw better than Thundercats Roar. So, there's that. Now, they did release other, in that scissor reel, they had clips of other shows, which literally is the who's who of promoted WEBTOONs shows. Yeah,
we'll talk about the WEBTOON shows. I just want to go down here. I thought this was really interesting. This is why people are against the show. And this is again, this is what we talk about a lot on this channel, is that these studios and these creators are oftentimes their own worst enemy. If they had put High Guardian Spice out there and not said anything about it,
exactly,
just said, hey, we got a new show, and just kind of snuck it in with
or talked about the show.
Or talk about the show and not the people working on the show.
Rest on your security and the fact that you did a good product would have been all that you needed to do.
But instead, they made a big deal about it. They had this, basically Kickstarter video talking about the diversity.
Kate Leff,
And they hire people like Kate Leff, who's got, literally, she's had hashtag kill all men. She talks about, sucks to hear Stan Lee's a creep, but also his entire career is built on taking credit for Kirby's work, and I was never a fan. Men are trash.
No. When I talk about the hashtag, the @GingerHazing account. Kate Leff and Noelle Stevenson used to team up to trash men on Twitter all the time.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, and I get, people are like, so now what's going to happen is, even if High Guardian Spice is good, people are going to boycott it because they're going to be like, we don't like the people working on it because they shot their mouths off on social media and they've proven to be not very nice people.
Wait, did he act like he didn't know what it was? And then...
Apparently.
This is the person who made it. Have any of you heard of this thing called High Guardian Spice? A lot of people online are shitting on it, but I saw a teaser and I thought it looked pretty cool. Winky winky.
Maybe they were just playing with people. I don't know.
I was really hoping to get more people explaining what High Guardian Spice is to me. I'm very disappointed. Okay, this is just outright trolling right here.
Yeah. So this is Ray Rodriguez, who's the showrunner creator. It's based on their
Not
comic.
many likes and retweets.
That's the thing. High Guardian Spice is based on a webcomic that like nobody read. And Ray is a trans creator. So that was actually kind of brought up too.
What does that even matter?
It doesn't matter. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Like, if they had just put this out and just been like, wherever it went, I lost it. I lost High Guardian Spice again. It'll take us 9 months to find it. No, if they had just put this out, people would have been like, oh, that looks kind of cute.
Yeah.
And they probably would have watched it and not thought anything of it.
If they would have if they had so much, confidence in their product, and they had just put their product out there, were confident in their product, and made it about the product, people would not have been so upset. What they were upset about was they didn't make it about the product. They made it about diversity and how, it's all women and they're pushing this American stuff and all that on it. And people got mad because they were being told that they were going to be sending the money to Japan to hire Japan studios, W studios and all that. So there was so many missteps here. It was ridiculous. But the whole reason I think they did this and why Hollywood does this and why all these showrunners do this is because they're immediately trying to put their product up as a shield so that if you have any criticisms of it, legitimate or otherwise, doesn't matter. It's all because you are some kind of phoberist. Has nothing to do with the actual product. And even if you have valid criticisms, doesn't matter. You're just a bad person.
It's to critic proof it. Yeah, it's like the spray you get for suede jackets.
Oh, to waterproof it?
Waterproof it. This is a critic proofing. So preemptively, they tell you this has marginalized people working on it. This has, certain groups of people working on it. So you better like it. The better thing to do. Again, if you want true equality, the better thing to do is put the product out there, and if people like it, then you can say, oh, by the way.
Well, they didn't count on anime fans, because the anime fans don't put up with that shit.
No, this is not comics.
Yeah,
this
they
is
just don't. They'll say what they think, and they don't care. And I mean, sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But they'll say what they think, and they were just like, oh, hell no. And that's what happened. And they gave themselves an issue before they even needed to have an issue because they did it to themselves.
Yeah, they did. This was a self-inflicted. Again, if I had just seen this as part of a sizzle reel, I would have been like, oh, okay, that looks kind of cute, whatever,
Yeah, because all the other shows, they were just thrown in as a sizzle reel, and that, and it is like the Webtoons who's who have promoted content on Webtoons. I guess it was a good idea to hire the person to get them, movie and TV deals.
Yeah, like half of their originals, and let's talk about this. Half of their originals are Webtoons. Or other Freak Angels is Warren Ellis, I think. That was actually his webcomic.
Well, I'll give them this. Webcomics are a fantastic place to go get good content, which is what I keep saying. There's so many good stories on the internet. I don't know why these studios keep rehashing everything that's already been done. You don't need to.
But here we have a couple that are based on webcomics. Freak Angels, obviously. Warren Ellis, now he's already gotten in with the anime crowd anyway, because he's I don't know if he's showrunner or head writer on Castlevania. Mm-hmm. So, he already had an in, I think, so he could be like, oh, hey, I'm doing Castlevania, let's dig up my webcomic. High Guardian Spice based on a webcomic virtually nobody read. That's another
that started a big controversy based on bad promotion.
Yeah, Swords and Guns working title Onyx Equinox. I'm not sure if that's Webtoon. I know Noblesse is, God of High School is, Tower of God is. These are all Webtoon.
Hey, if you're really interested in webcomics to make good anime, I have one that's for you. It's called Shadowbinders. It's shameless self-promotion because that story would translate so well into this art style.
That we can talk about now. That story was actually optioned by Disney XD for a while, but they passed and now I don't know what they're doing.
And see, I have 100% confidence in our product, and it would really do well. I know it would do well as an anime. That sounds arrogant, and I really don't care because we had lots of viewers. A while back when we were updating, we had lots of people reading it. We have to get back to updating, and I'm very proud of it. And it would have made one hell of an anime. But anyway, I digress.
We're working on it.
Yeah. So animation studios, possible publishers. Just so you know.
So it's funny though. I mean, maybe a side note about Webtoons, because we talked about Webtoons.
You mean the fact that the person wrote you a nastygram?
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it's a nastygram or a panigram. So we did a video a couple weeks ago. It was kind of a filler video for us because we were in Florida.
We knew it wouldn't get many hits. We just wanted something to slap up when we were gone.
So we talked about Webtoon, and we talked about how the end game for Webtoon is this. It's Hollywood, it's animation deals. This is what they came here for, basically. Mm-hmm. Came to the States for, made a deal with, the One Talent Agency for, and it wasn't really throwing shade. It was just the only issue we had with Webtoons was when they first came to the States, they basically built their platform on the backs of, independent webcomic artists.
I'm sorry, that's true.
It is true. And then it was kind of a bait and switch, like, okay, we're going to build our platform. We're going to get our numbers up with all of these creators here, but then we're going to start bringing more of our Korean stuff over here because we want to make TV shows of that. And then we're going to start bringing, they brought like Marvel people came into it and all this other stuff. So it felt like it was almost like it was...
well, it was... Don't tell me it was coincidence. They bring somebody in who was over at Marvel to oversee everything, and then all these Marvel people suddenly come in and get promoted stories that were in all the emails. They were promoted, and then can we talk to a couple of them? They suddenly stopped showing you the subscriber numbers.
Yeah.
Because we were at an event, and one of those promoted people that were friends of so-and-so were at an event with Kneon.
A convention.
It was a convention.
Yeah,
it was they were both brought in as guests, and they were going to talk to Kneon about, and they were going to be very braggy towards him about their numbers. And then he went and pulled up our comic, and our comic had far better numbers than his did on WEBTOON. And then he wouldn't talk to him anymore. I'm not going to name names.
Weird. It was a weird...
He was like, well, me on WEBTOON, me, and we're like this, and they promote me, and me.
Yeah,
And
I was like,
he's just sitting there letting them talk. And then he went and looked up our numbers, and our numbers smoked his. And then not long after that, the numbers for the promoted ones suddenly weren't showing much anymore.
Yeah, they changed things a little bit. Now that person that had the Marvel connections is no longer at WEBTOON. Anyway, we put this video out, and it was pretty middle of the road. We just gave an opinion. We said, look, we did WEBTOON for a while. We just did to mirror our comic, and we gave the truthful opinion. I think it is fact, basically, at this point, that WEBTOON, when WEBTOON came in, they basically destroyed
They did.
the webcomic ecosystem.
They did.
There was a system. There was a webcomic business model. Everybody kind of had their own website. You had your own merchandise. You hosted your own stuff. You did some cross promotion with other sites, but for the most part, everybody had their own lemonade stand. WEBTOON came in, and they were basically the Walmart of webcomics.
Well, I would argue Hiveworks did a lot to damage it.
Hiveworks
too,
before,
which is a whole other story. We don't have a very good history with some of those people either. Again, not because of our fault or anything, but yeah, I would agree. I would think that that kind of, it was Hiveworks, and I'd say WEBTOON came in and kind of destroyed the way it's been done and the way you can monetize things.
Yeah. So what happened was, again, in our opinion, is it became. Well, no, it's not an opinion, it's fact. It became much, much harder to monetize your webcomics. It used to be that the ad revenue paid for it. People would back you on Patreon, they'd buy your merchandise, whatever. When WEBTOON came in, and this is after webcomics had been ground down already by Hiveworks with this big collective, and they basically pushed anybody out of webcomics.
Oh, we have stories. We should share those stories sometime.
I don't
we
even know
have
if
so
they're a
many
thing.
stories of things that they did. One person in particular to try to screw us out of things. We have stories. Anyway,
Hiveworks
we said no to them about being their collective, and then they didn't like
Yeah,
that.
Hiveworks basically at one point was kind of like the webcomics mafia. Like if you wouldn't join them, they would go out of their way to push you out of the scene.
Oh, we have all kinds
entirely.
of proof of this. I mean, they not the Project Wonderful, for example, when it existed. I miss Project Wonderful. That one person would deliberately run ads up to and then drop it right below your high bid to try to run you out of money to take, which is against policy. They did it often, and then because of them doing it, because before that everybody was like, okay, I'm willing to pay this. If someone outbids me, it's okay. I'll get it again later. No big deal. Then this behavior started, and it can be traced back to a certain person, and then it became a problem where everybody was doing it to everybody else because they kept doing it to them, and they ran you up to what
almost $1,000 on Project Wonderful. For those of you not familiar, if you remember the old webcomics, and I know a lot of you who are listening don't, Project Wonderful was it worked kind of like eBay, where a lot of, I would say 95% of webcomics had a Project Wonderful box or two on their page, and you could advertise, cross-promote on other people's webcomics, but you bid on that space. And usually, it varied depending on the traffic of the site, but the high-profile sites like Questionable Content, I think it was Questionable Content.
It was Questionable Content.
Dumbing of Age.
It wasn't Dumbing of Age. It was Questionable Content.
It was Questionable Content. They ran me up to $1,000, which was the maximum bid, but they took it a penny under, so we ran all of our money out. And then they went running to Walkie, who does Dumbing of Age, and told them how stupid we were for paying that much when they were at Hiveworks was actually the ones jacking up everybody. And what they were doing is they had a ton of money from Kickstarters, okay, and I think they were funneling that into advertising. They advertised like crazy. Basically, if you wouldn't join them, and this is trying.
They had meetings about us.
They had meetings about us. If you would not join Hiveworks, they would go out of their way to wipe you off the internet to make sure you couldn't advertise anywhere.
I think us more than others though, because he had it out for us so bad.
I don't know why.
We said no. And then it was really weird for a while. We'll go back to what we're talking about in a minute, but it was really weird for a while because our Project Wonderful, we'd go and find certain sites that the ads would be really good, and it'd be places we hadn't advertised before, and then all of a sudden, here they'd come and kick us out. We're like, how do they know where we are all the time? Interestingly enough, as it turned out, the people that were the place we were at had a webmaster who was running their stuff, and it turned out the same webmaster was running Hiveworks.
Yeah, we used to be part of KeenSpot. And for whatever reason, KeenSpot thought it was okay that their webmaster was working with Hiveworks, and they had access to our analytics at KeenSpot.
Even if we've got to find a new place, and we would deliberately go find places that weren't even great just to park an ad there to see what would happen, and then within like a half an hour, here they come.
Yeah.
Here they come, and how did they know? Well, there's only one connection that I can see.
Yeah, and so then what happened, Hiveworks did this to other people too, and eventually I think Project Wonderful collapsed.
There's a reason Blind Ferret went down, I'm just saying. A lot of people, there's a lot of speculation and rumor on that one.
Speculation and rumor. So anyway.
I'm pretty sure though.
So
anyway.
webcomics around 2010, 2012 were already weakened, I think, because of collectives like Hiveworks, and then in comes Tapastic. It was Tapastic, then that's Tapas, and WEBTOON. And WEBTOON, of course, is part of Naver. They've got like infinite money. So they come over and they start out small, and people made fun of them. They're like, oh, they don't even know what they're doing. But they started having contests, and they started luring
creators. They started paying creators. Yeah. Like if you you could be a featured creator, they pay you each month.
Not much, like
it wasn't a lot. And then what they were most mad about was because we said you couldn't make a big living on WEBTOON, which is completely true.
Yeah, so okay, so we do this other video, and we weren't even slamming webtoons. We just said, here's how webtoon looks to those of us who are doing webcomics and actually making a living off of our webcomic before webtoon came in.
And disclosure, we actually made money from webtoon.
We did.
We're webcomics that got money. And we said that in the other video,
yeah, we did. I mean, it wasn't YouTube money, but it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was okay. But we stopped updating because it just wasn't worth. It wasn't the time the time investment wasn't worth it, and putting the comic on our own site was no longer worth it because the whole ecosystem had been destroyed. Project Wonderful was gone. Banner ad people had blockers,
well, and because Webtoon made it so easy and stuff, usually you had to have some knowledge to know what you're doing. So that kind of kept the competition in check with the fact that there wasn't as many doing it because they couldn't.
Right.
By this kind of thing and by Tapas and that, basically it was just upload your stuff, and we actually would recommend them to people because we said, one, the interaction from fans is a lot better over at Webtoon, which I still stand by, and two, that it's easy to get a lot of eyeballs really quickly. And then if you're good enough, you'll make it, and if you're not, well, I'm sorry, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And we actually promoted them to people that were doing comics new. But what happened is when it went from 1,000, I mean it was more than that, but 1,000 webcomics that were and of that 10% were doing well or whatever, it became there was like 100,000 webcomics.
Yeah.
And of that, still like a few, like less than 10% were doing well.
Yeah, it wound up being really, it wound up being a blessing and a curse because it was like, wow, okay, here's a great place. It was almost like the YouTube of webcomics, but now you're competing with so many more people.
Yeah.
There's no barrier to entry.
It benefits them because everybody's going to go there. I get lots of free if I go here. There's lots of things to look at.
Yeah.
So the more the merrier. Whether or not it's beneficial to you for you being seen or getting paid doesn't matter because they're going to make their money either way. That's all we said. And that's just like, 101 of how these things work.
And we weren't being negative, but I started getting private messages from somebody at Webtoon who was freaking out that we said this.
We're just like, whatever.
And I'm not going to repeat what was said, but I basically said, look, we have opinions. We worked in webcomics before. We were actually guests at many anime conventions. Because of our webcomic being so popular, we saw what happened.
Get 1 million hits a month?
Oh yeah, we were doing really well. Yeah, we have Shadowbinders. Some of the archives are actually up on Webtoon right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can go if you're curious. We're looking at ways to bring it back, but it's got to make sense financially. Anyway, so we just gave our opinion as people who had watched this whole thing go down, and I didn't think we were very negative, but yeah, somebody from Webtoon contacted us, which is so weird because I tried for years to actually get a human at Webtoon. Mm-hmm. I could never get a hold of a human.
Right. So you say a couple things that are actually truthful, but they don't like it, and then suddenly you hear from a human. But there was a little bit of back and forth. I pretty much ended the conversation. You were actually on a bus in Florida.
we were traveling, and I don't even remember where things left off, but they were basically like, we do pay people, and I said,
we never said they didn't.
We never said you didn't. We're just saying that, like,
you can't make a living off of doing webtoons, webcomics in general.
A handful
very
of people.
Few. And the ones that are promoted are the ones who make the money because they promote you on the emails, they promote you on the site. You're the ones people are going to go to. You're the ones who are going to give money to their Patreon. You're the ones people are going to, give money to. You're the ones who are going to be promoted for television deals.
Yeah, and these are the ones that they have a vested interest in or ownership in. Obviously, like Tower of God and.
Yeah, that's not saying they're not good stories. They are good stories. I'm not saying they're not.
They're popular for a reason, but I'm just saying, like, this would be like if it's almost like if it makes sense financially. It makes sense financially. It'd be almost like if Marvel was a free-for-all. Anybody could make a Marvel comic, but they finally got a TV deal, and of course they pick X-Men and Spider-Man first.
Right, over, the other shows. That's exactly what,
right.
Yeah, that's a good analogy right there.
That's basically what's going on. So their X-Men Spider-Man would be God of High School, Tower of God. Apparently having God in your name gets you... so we should start a webtoon called God, God, God.
There you go.
Or
change Shadowbinders to Crimson Wren, God of the Skies.
God of the Sky. There we go. God of the Sky
Trademark
Gods.
right there, guys.
God of the Sky Gods. God of High School Sky God.
Yeah, high school girl and Sky God.
High School Girl and Sky God. There we go. That's how you get noticed on Webtoon. But look, I mean, this was the end goal for Webtoon and for Crunchyroll to have their own stuff. That being said, I can't say the stuff. Well, I don't even know much about it, but it looks better than I thought it was going to look.
I think it looks really good.
I'm
going to be honest. It looks good.
I think the stuff looks pretty decent. I don't know. I do understand people's concern because again, they were like, well, we want the money to go to Japan. So, but their mental gymnastics, I'll tell you what's going to happen here. The mental gymnastics of Crunchyroll will be, well, it is going to Japan. The animators who work on our shows
get money. Yes.
The I'm sorry. The animation studios that work on our shows, then they outsource to the Philippines. And they don't pay the Philippines.
That was another video.
That was a whole other video. But, that being said, opinion, yeah, I mean, they have to. Crunchyroll, to justify its existence to Time Warner, if they're just translating and they're just streaming anime, Warner doesn't need them. Time Warner doesn't need, or that's not Time Warner anymore, AT&T. AT&T doesn't need them. They have to bring something to the table. So this is what they're betting on, I think, is original content, because they're like, you have to keep us around because we're making you new shows for HBO Max.
Well, but to the positive of this, and to the credit of this, I want to say this is what we've been talking about when we said, Hollywood keeps rebooting and retooling everything they've already done, and it's stupid because if you go online, there's so many really good stories that are new. This is what I'm talking about. So at least they're trying to find some new things to promote.
Yeah, I'll give them that. But this also shows where anime is now. That I think Hollywood is over superheroes, and I think they're going to start looking at anime now for movies and shows.
Well, let's be honest, manga is kicking American comics ass.
Yeah, it is.
So
that is the future. But yeah, I'm willing to give these shows a chance. Obviously, we'll check them out. They look better than I thought they were going to. So concerns aside, and if they suck balls, well, then we'll watch.
Yeah, we can't tell you this, but
suck balls.
We have to watch it first to understand. But by the art style, High Guardian Spice actually doesn't look that bad.
No.
If it, that's one thing people are like, well, you're just negative. No, we're fair. If something looks better than we thought, we will say it came out better than we thought. Yeah. We haven't watched the show yet, so I can't tell you about the story. But as far as the art style goes, I will give them that. It does definitely look better than what they originally were if they had showed this instead of what they showed, they wouldn't have had the backlash they had gotten.
And that's just it. They should have honestly kept their mouth shut. Show don't tell. And then if people like the show, just be like, oh, by the way, here's who's working on it. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That works better than like, you have to like the show no matter how terrible it is, because if you don't like the show, you hate these kinds of people. And that's not true. That's especially in anime, especially in pop culture. Geeks are a pretty accepting bunch. I mean, for the most part, because a lot of us were outcasts ourselves.
Right.
So we are, but we don't like people coming in and telling us that we're awful people. Or that we're the gatekeepers or whatever, when that's not the case.
No, it's
not the case. So we'll check these shows out. We'll let you know what we think. High Guardian Spice is not dead. It's just sleeping, or was sleeping.
Well, we knew it wasn't. We already knew it wasn't.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this one up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.